On a trip to Auckland and Wellington, Julia Gillard has thanked New Zealand for its support during the recent Queensland flood disaster. And the help from across the Tasman may not end there. New Zealand Prime Minister John Key confirmed an offer to lend Australia one of its Navy vessels as a fill-in for Australian landing ships which are not up to operational duties. Meanwhile, at home, the opposition's uniting with the Defence Minister in calling for greater accountability from defence bureaucrats over the revelations. Political correspondent Tom Eagleton reports.
Stephen Smith was in good humour this morning, even though he'd kept a conference he was due to address waiting, along with his Defence Materials Minister, Jason Clare.
I was late. Jason, like any good Defence Material Minister, was of course on time, and he tells me on budget.
But the jokes ended there. A clearly frustrated minister launched into a rare public assault on defence bureaucrats and senior Navy personnel following recent revelations none of Australia's 3 amphibious landing platforms are fit for operational duty.
The maintenance and sustainment of our amphibious capability has, regrettably, effectively failed. I will be as frank in public as I have been in private in expressing my disappointment at this.
The repairs on the ageing Canimbla will take more than a year. The Manoora is slated for an early retirement rather than shelling out $20 million on repairs. But as recently as a fortnight ago, the minister was told a third amphibious platform, the younger Tobruk, was ready to return to service following repairs.
This has, however, not yet occurred, as further maintenance issues and problems have been identified.
The bureaucratic backflip came just 2 days after the original advice and as plans were being made to press the Tobruk into service to respond to Cyclone Yasi.
The Minister needs to understand exactly why it is that it took the imminence of a natural disaster in Cyclone Yasi before we discovered that Australia doesn't have any serviceable amphibious ships to go out there into the field.
The opposition says heads should roll and it'll support Stephen Smith if he wants to fire anyone he finds responsible for having passed on dodgy advice about the Tobruk. But others say the problem's as much political as bureaucratic, going back to the decision in the 1970s to buy second-hand amphibious landing craft from the American Navy.
Governments have to keep learning this lesson. Don't make the Defence Force buy something that's inadequate just because it's cheaper, because it will end up costing the taxpayer more in the long run.
For his part, Stephen Smith's appointed an independent panel to look into the Navy's maintenance practices over the next 3 months. Last week, New Zealand's Navy offered one of its amphibious vessels as a stopgap, an offer reiterated today during Prime Minister Gillard's visit there.
The Canterbury is a good ship that might be useful for Australia, so look, from time to time we will share assets, and I think that's part of the sort of shared arrangements that we have.
This is part of our heritage with the Anzac tradition.
It's humiliating, with all due respect to New Zealand, to have to borrow a New Zealand ship to meet Australia's naval needs.
Humiliating or not, it's probably better than no ship at all. Tom Eagleton, Lateline.